$25,000 miles later. Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and welcome back to my 2023 Honda Civic Type R, the FL5. This is one of the most incredible do-it-all vehicles I've ever experienced and certainly ever owned. I bought it at the end of December of 2022, so we're just over 3 years of ownership, which when I looked that up, it made me realize that I'm beyond the warranty. I've now exceeded the bumper-to-bumper 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. I thought the miles would come first, but I've been storing it for the winter at Garage 42, so the Lexus GX460 has been getting a bulk of the miles over those months, which means this got preserved a little bit. But anyway, now that gas prices are at $5.50 a gallon, for premium at least, here in Massachusetts, this car has really stood out and been a shining star of efficiency here in New England for the last couple months. I just brought, actually not even, I think I brought it out last month and I've already put another 1,000 or 1,500 miles on it. It's fantastic. I've done almost no modifications on it, but what I want to do today is talk about the ownership experience, what it's like living with this car, and would I do it again? This is really special because the Civic Type R obviously has a lot to live up to. Brands today love to use their monikers, the M brand, the AMG brand, the S brand from the Germans. Sometimes they get diluted in marketing, but Honda really never puts Type R on something that isn't appropriate for the brand. And as an all-rounder, this Type R is genuinely impressive. It's my daily driver, it's my track car, it's my enthusiast weekend car. It's big enough, which may be something that not all of you like, but it's big enough that I can fit a ton of stuff in this vehicle. It's actually unbelievably practical, whether it's a family car or you're hauling stuff, bicycles, whatever. I mean, it really does do it all, and it'll go out on a racetrack and spank GT3s in a corner, which is like kind of the most entertaining thing about this thing. So I've done almost no modifications. I really do like to keep my cars relatively stock, especially for the sake of this kind of video, to say, what is it like really living with this car? If I went and tuned it and did all kinds of modifications, well, now that's kind of muddled. There's too many variables, but really the only thing that's changed on this car for me are these wheels. I put the Apex VS5 RSs in Motorsport Gold. The car's pretty filthy because this is kind of how I usually end up driving it. It's wrapped in Bridgestone Potenza RE71 RSs right now, and I know these 200 treadwear track tires that are DOT legal are designed to be a DOT legal track car. Track tire. That's exactly what they are. Here's the thing. I like them a lot. They're really fun, and I know they're going to wear really fast, and I'm just going to have to reach out to Bridgestone. Thank you, Bridgestone, for getting new ones, and I want to get the RZs on this car, but they are fantastic. The only downside of these RE71 RSs are, number one, they're pretty loud on the highway. They're not a quiet tire in this car. Not exactly the best insulated. We'll talk about that when we're driving. But two, the fuel economy. Holy cow, you drop about 2 miles per gallon from a Michelin PS4S to the RE71 RS. So normally I'd be getting about 29 miles per gallon on the highway. On the stockies, on these tires, I get about 27. So it is actually a noticeable difference. But one of the great things about this Type R is just that it already comes with the equipment you need. This chassis is incredible. These brakes are fantastic. Sure, you can upgrade the pads. You can go ahead and swap on some lighter rotors or, play the game you want. That's the thing about Hondas. They're Legos. And one of the other beautiful things about this car that is a far cry from the E92 M3 that I was daily driving for many years, about 6 years. I love that car, but here's the thing. An S65 naturally aspirated V8 that took like 8 or 9 liters of oil. Every time you did anything to it, it was expensive. This car is so cheap to run. Now, I don't love the idea that it uses 0W20. It looks like water whenever I do oil changes, but I gotta say, it is so simple, and I know that if for whatever reason, and I don't want this to happen, if for whatever reason this engine blew up, it's not that expensive to go and replace. And also, I don't think anyone's so precious about these cars that they're going to say, oh, it's not a matching numbers thing. I don't think anyone cares. Whereas on the BMW, it's like 15, 20 grand if you blow up one of those engines, and all the maintenance on them is very expensive. So this was like my first time buying a car that was outrageously performance oriented and also relatively cheap to maintain, because we all have the dreams of driving a Spider RS or a GT4 or a GT3, but when things go wrong on those cars, they can be a real deal breaker to the wallet. Even if you've done a reasonable financial job of saving up your pennies to buy the car, the liability on every detail of that car could be rough if you're not wealthy. So, all right, let's talk about the ownership experience. So 25,000 miles in this car. It's not crazy because this can go forever, or so it should. One of the best things about this livability and driving experience has been its practicality. This hatchback is ridiculously vast. So when you pop this guy back and put these seats down, I have so much space, because what I love to do is I like to take my bike places. But maybe you have housing projects and you want to go and thrift and yard sale and pick up a table or whatever. It's really nice that you can use one car to do it all, because if you own a Miata or a BRZ, wonderful cars, but they're not always the most practical. So if you are somebody that's like, wait a minute, I love that experience of a sporty thing, but I need the practicality and space, well, you get it in the FL5 because its base is off of the Civic hatchback. So the Civic hatch is wildly practical. The other thing I love about this car is that everything on the FL5 is pretty bespoke. Like these doors, these fenders, everything is specific to this car. So it does actually make the car special, despite just being a Civic. And I know it's not just a Civic, but really, it's cool when you have an ordinary, reliable car that still has a special vibe, despite the fact that they're making quite a lot of them. So, maybe it's not some rare Porsche Sport Classic. They only made, 1900 or whatever. But it is neat that your Honda Civic doesn't share very many body components with the standard car, because everything has to be wider. Inside, there's my rally to give cap. Inside, if you do need to bring passengers, they're going to be comfortable. There's headroom. There's not this massive compromise when you get a sports car. That's very annoying sometimes. It's like you get a sports car and then you realize like your friends are making fun of you, your non-car friends. Your car friends will understand. But like if you've ever had non-car friends get into your sports car and they're unimpressed with the idea that you have something fancy, they're just like, my head is hitting the ceiling. This is a stupid vehicle. And it's really hard to argue with them when they're kind of right. But there's really no creature comforts back here. One of the things that I think is a bummer about the Civic is just that you don't get any HVAC things back here. You don't get vents. You don't get any charge ports. So it's not the most rear passenger friendly vehicle. You don't even get a center seat. This is a 4-seater. So the Type R doesn't get a center seat. You get these cup holders here, but you don't get any armrests. So whoever's back here, maybe they'll stack some things, but it's not the most rear passenger friendly vehicle. It's not bad though. And you do get this nice sort of like micro suede down here with the deviated stitching. Unlike every other Civic in the US, this has a fill cap. All the other Civics, because they didn't need to conform to the rest of the world, they just pop right in. You don't need to remove this. But on the Civic Type R, you end up with a cap. Not a big deal. Style-wise, I do think one of the most impressive things about this car is the attention it gleans from people, just people on the road. I get thumbs up in this car. I get people stopping me at gas stations. I get people stopping me pretty much everywhere to compliment the car, talk about the car, see the car, because it's sort of just rare enough that it's not everyday traffic. I do see them on occasion, but I think when people do see them, they get really excited. The bodywork is fantastic. Like I said, it's ridiculously wide. Living with this has been fine. It's just that if you are on a particularly narrow Boston street parking, you'll start to realize just how wide this is. I've had to put this in our toter home trailer a couple times. That's when you start to realize that this is much wider than a standard Civic. And that that stance obviously gives you incredible performance, but you do need to be aware that like sometimes you are parking it and you're like, yeah, maybe it's a good idea if we just fold that mirror in and try to slim it down even a little bit more. Down here, this little guy, it shoots all kinds of dirt. This always gets filthy. It's not quite as bad as like a McLaren or an Aston Martin DB11, but it is there. And down here, little rocks always pool up in this little slot. So that's kind of annoying. Originally, the car comes with this little piece of PPF. So that's from the factory to try to help prevent some of those rock strikes. I have PPF'd everything from here forward, which I think has done a really good job in preserving the championship white paint. The reason I went with championship white paint was because it's bespoke to the car. It's the only Type R only color, because there are white Civics, but this looks a little more eggshell. It's more of a beigeish color. You almost don't notice it until it snows on the car or until you park next to a white Civic. But let's get out on the road and let me talk about what the livability and drivability has been like, because it's obviously a looker, in my opinion. I think most people like the way this looks. I get how some people might not, but for me, this car really fixed all my qualms with the FK8, because the FK8 looked like an anime haircut. I think it's fun, but it's just not for me. So let's get it started up. So when it starts up, it starts in that mode, but I have it set in my individual mode to use this screen. I prefer this tachometer. I think it looks kind of cool. It's fun, but at the same time, we've got a variable suspension. This car is very stiff, so I almost always drive it in comfort mode. Even on a racetrack, I usually use sport mode, not race mode or plus R mode, just because even that's too stiff. The Topher had one of these. He actually just sold his Type R, but he put in the Type S control module for the suspension. That softened it up a little bit. Over time, I've grown to really appreciate what this suspension is, and I think I'm just going to leave it alone. I don't really feel the need to adjust this. But after 3 years, I've spent a lot of time in this interior with this infotainment system, and it does have wireless CarPlay. I always plug in. I like to plug in. It keeps the phone cooler because, yeah, it's got this wireless charge pad, but I just think it works a little better. The only thing that I'm really annoyed about with this car is that sometimes when I plug in, sometimes, not always, but it's like 50%, honestly. Sometimes it takes a really long time for this to recognize the phone and actually give me CarPlay. It's very frustrating because sometimes I will set off and I'll be driving for 5 minutes maybe, which I know that doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're plugging in and you're just trying to get on the road and you want Waze and you need directions, well, like 5 minutes is a while. And that can be quite annoying. The sound system, it's got this Bose sound system. It's pretty good. It's not that impressive just because I have the Lexus GX 460 with the Mark Levinson. So in comparison to that, it's not great. And if you want the better sound system, well, then you buy the Integra Type S. I think that's just the obvious choice if you're looking for more creature comforts. The other thing is these seats. I love these seats, but over time, I've noticed there's not a lot of lumbar support. And if you're somebody who has lower back problems, if you're somebody who really needs that adjustment, this is not going to work for you. Straight up. Like, I actually am probably going to get myself a little old man pillow to put right here behind me, because I have started to notice that on like longer journeys, I have to like puff out my back and stretch, and it's a little bit annoying. Not the worst in the world. We've seen worse seats, but they are fantastic other than that lumbar, and it's not something you notice right away. It's something that you're going to notice after an hour, 2 hours of driving. That's when you're going to start getting frustrated with it. You're good. I'm not going to hit you. As long as you're not bringing a giraffe through here. We're at the zoo, so I don't know. I don't want to hit this guy's giraffe if he's crossing the street. But this manual transmission, oh my God, this is so good. And it's something that Honda has executed impeccably well, especially at this price point. And I know this is not a cheap car. I think they're at like close to $50,000 at this point for the current model year. But not many auto manufacturers are making good manuals anymore. Some are still sticking to the manual thing because they know it'll sell, they know that their customer base wants it, but not everyone's making good ones. And just throwing a manual in a car sometimes isn't enough. What I love about Honda is that they put a manual in this car, and it's one of the best shifting gearboxes in the game. It's so good that people compared it against Porsches, and that's high praise. That's really high praise, because look at what a GT3 costs today. A base price GT3 is $222,000. My dreams of owning a new GT3 are over. I don't know that my income will ever be in a position to sort of supplement that. Okay, this is actually good. We're in traffic, and in the most rural place. I actually can't believe we're in traffic right now. This is crazy. I chose this location because I thought there would be 0 people out here. But alas, here we are. And that's one of the things that I really like about this car, is that it is fast enough that it can hang with the big dogs when it needs to, but it's also a little bit slow car fast. And I'm certainly not calling it slow, but I just mean that you can enjoy this car at slightly lower speeds and still feel like you're connected and having a good time. In a much faster car, if we're in like a Camaro SS1LE or ZL1, I would be like legitimately bored right now. It would not be any fun. Whereas this Civic, because it's so light, it only weighs about 3,100, 3,200 pounds. Relative to today's standards, that is a very light car, especially with EVs out there. It does feel like plucky, and because of the gearing, it's not geared super tall like those Porsches. This is something that you're able to throw around and keep the revs up and play with, even here, and think like, I made the correct choice in car, and you don't feel like you're wasting miles in some 200 mile an hour thing and going nowhere. That's a bummer. But when you do need to go, it goes. So a couple of things that we can talk about that just occurred. Number one, I love these shift lights. I think they are fantastic. Number two, it makes that dumb beep. It's the ugliest beep in the world when you need to shift. It's like a dingy light. It's like, hey, you need to do this. You can turn that off. It is so deep in this menu that I know you can turn it off. I just haven't found it. I know it's in there somewhere. I got to do that. Get over some of this junk. Talk about the suspension for a quick second. For some, this is too stiff. For me, it's fine, just because I think I've been used to having really stiff cars in the past. It does not bother me at all. This gearbox, while fantastic, I do have to admit, it'll grind second if you rush that 1-2 shift. It just will. And some worse than others. Trust me, I've gone on the forums, I'm like, oh my God. And it is a painful sound, and you're like, oh, and you can catch it quick, but like, I'm a pretty adept manual transmission driver. I know my foot is all the way on the clutch. I know what I'm doing. I mean, I've driven everything, and like, just occasionally you get caught off guard and you hit that little grind on that 1-2. So I never rush the 1-2. So if you're somebody who's looking for sort of a drag racy light to light car in short distances, this is not it. This is just not going to do you any good. Not to mention the fact that it does have a little bit of like turbo lag. I mean, in the sense that it does take a second for that boost to build up. This is not an immediate off the line car. It's a little bit of a bummer. And I think my biggest gripe with this Civic Type R is the fact that it's not naturally aspirated. I would almost happily give up 50 horsepower for a naturally aspirated 9,000 RPM power plant versus this with the turbocharger somewhere around 7,000 RPM. That's just my preference, and I think that one piece of this car is the one thing that I would think like, if I could have like a really minty 8th gen Civic Si, I feel like I would almost rather be driving that. That's all to do with character. That has nothing to do with the performance of the car, because this is obviously so far beyond the capabilities of an 8th gen. Auto rev matching system in this car is actually really, really good, and I gotta admit, I leave it on. I always use it. Maybe I'm being lazy. I drive a lot of cars where I get to playfully rev match them everywhere, and that's fine, but this car, I just think it works out well. And also because of this engine not being as super sharp as one of those old high revving K series, from the 8th generation. I know I keep using that as a benchmark. It's just such an incredible engine. If you've got a minty 8th gen Civic Si, I highly recommend just keeping it and maintaining it and enjoying that sound, because that's the thing. This doesn't sound like that, but I don't find myself being that excited to like playfully rev match this engine. I don't think it has the character. While we're sitting behind this fella, let's talk maintenance. There basically is none. It's just oil changes. And the thing is, Honda gives you, I think it's 2 years and 24,000 miles with their service pass. And I thought that meant that I could go in there every 5,000 miles and just get a free oil change. And I was really excited about that. I thought this is such a cool little treat. They're not wildly expensive oil changes, but what a nice thing to be able to take advantage of this service plan. Well, I did 2, and then after that, they're like, oh, you're out. You're out. So I'm like, I don't know if the dealership was incorrect and like telling me that I didn't have any more left, or if that service pass is, sure, 2 years, 24,000 miles, but maybe what that really means is they're doing 12,000 mile oil changes and they give you 2 free oil changes. So please in the comments tell me who is correct in that situation. Should I have been able to get like 4 oil changes, 5 oil changes out of them for free, or is it really just kind of like a verbiage thing where, sure, we'll do your service for 24,000 miles, except that the recommended service is like a 12,000 mile oil change, so that only counts for 2 and you use them up every 5,000 miles. I don't know. I ended up just starting to do my own because I did those 2, and then ever since then, I basically just go and I buy some oil, get a filter. It's the easiest oil change ever. I'm thrilled at the organization of the underside of this car because it has a really easy under tray to remove. In fact, the under tray, this RAV4 is like really cooking on me. The under tray, I don't know why. I don't know if this car just encourages people. I do think this car encourages people to follow you like kind of a jerk. Like it's like driving a Lamborghini. You're gonna get looky-loos who want to take pictures or like keep up with you or something. I don't always understand it. But the tray, the under tray on this car, it hangs up on these great clips, and then really great hardware secures it. So even my M3 was a total pain in the butt to do oil changes on sometimes, because it really would be a pain to get it back. These tires are really funny because they do require a bit of heat to get warmed up. So like I chucked it in, I could feel it sort of like the way these tires let go when they're a little bit cold is they don't like slide. They sort of like, it feels like they're like skipping across a table. So that's like always entertaining. You can feel it too when you get into the power. You throw your foot to the floor, and if you're in second gear, it's gonna introduce a little bit of wheel spin until these tires get super juicy and hot. Oh God, but they're so good. That's the reason I've left them on. Like these are supposed to just be for like track day fun, but I've had so much fun just like pulling a casual G on the street, and I just find it wildly entertaining. Okay, out on the highway, cruise control, fantastic. I never use the ACC. I don't like it when cruise control changes my speed, because the problem is, let's say, for example, I'm going a little bit faster than this fella, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go around him. The cruise control is gonna start slowing me down at about the moment I'm gonna go and make my pass. And that's really annoying, it's not fuel efficient, and it just ruins the flow. So what I do is I just always leave it on like regular cruise control. I control the speed, and the controls here are fantastic. I think a lot of other manufacturers in the industry could learn a lesson from this steering wheel. These buttons are set up so well, everything is very obvious in how it functions. It even has a little bit of a lane assist thing. It is not self-driving, it will bark at me. And that's actually a complaint I have about these sort of like older Civics, is that it requires force on the steering wheel. I think maybe Acura is the only part of the brand that's doing the capacitive touch, and I think that's a real upgrade, just because I don't like having to like add force to the steering wheel just to tell it I'm there. I think that's silly. I think Honda's also done away with something that I really like about these cars. Oh, you can hear a rock in my brakes. That happens a lot in this car. I'm going to show you this in a second after we get back on. I had to slow it down. There's a big pothole. Did not want to trash my Apex wheels on that one, so I had to slow it down and take a really slow inside line to avoid that wheel hitting. Okay, something that I think, from what I can see in all the Hondas I've driven recently, they seemingly did away with one of my favorite functions. You guys hate that I keep this wire here. I don't even see it. I'm sorry, you notice it on camera. Someday I'll have somebody properly like tuck it in or whatever and hardwire this in. I'm not gonna do that. I'm sorry. It's just not my style. This trip computer, I love this function. This is like my favorite function on the car, because when you hit that, it gives you your average fuel economy from the last drive you did and the current drive you're doing. So look, right here on the screen, this is telling me range and average fuel economy. That average fuel economy is over the life of the trip odometer that's currently set to. So that's like thousands of miles. I don't reset that. So that's telling me like a broad overall. But this right here, without having to reset a trip odometer, tells me since I've started the vehicle, this is what we're doing. Now, I'm getting terrible fuel economy because I keep showing off for you guys by getting on and off these highways. But that's a real godsend, because it means I don't have to play around and fiddle around with my trips. I just know it. Now, I think that Honda has like done away with this, because I have noticed that is not available. Or like when you hit home, there's suddenly like less things on the home screens of some new Hondas. I don't know if that's true of the Type R, but after 2023, but I know that it's true of some of the later cars, like SUVs that I've driven, like the Pilot and things. And I miss this. They're using a Google built-in system, and it's faster and nicer, but they did away, I think, with this. And I just found that to be such a wonderful treat. Like, look at this average fuel economy is over the last 25,000 miles, 27 miles per gallon. Used to be 29, but these RE71 RS has changed that. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. Need to eat lunch. We did talk a little bit about interior road noise, and I do think that it is a relatively loud cabin. However, it's very forgivable in this car because it's almost like if you were getting in a Porsche GT3 Touring or something like, or a 911T. Part of those cars' aesthetic, their essence, is removing some of the insulation. They literally remove insulation so you're more connected to the road. So I think that's fair for the Type R to be a little loud. It's not going to have the luxurious highway sounds of a sport touring Civic. You're driving a Type R, you're going to hear what's going on. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I do think that if you're looking for like a luxury sports thing though, like if your vibe is BMW M5, this is going to be too raw for you. That's just the way it's going to be. It's not raining right now, but one of my favorite features of this car is proper intermittent wipers that are not rain sensing and trying to do some overkill crazy swiping. I actually get to set how fast I want these wipers to go, how long I want them to delay between wipes. Swipes? I don't know. I don't like saying that. Wipe sounds gross, but either way, they are windshield wipers. This is so good. I'm so sick of like new cars trying to automate things that don't need to be automated. Like, give me some control over things. Like, one of the things I love about this car, manual transmission. It lets me control what's going on. And then little things, letting me control these wipers without some silly computer saying, oh, you need them on, be this much or that much. Like, let me choose. It lets me choose my own adventure, and I really appreciate that. If you're like a control freak like me, that's something you're going to genuinely appreciate. Not to mention the fact that the labeling, oh, I just spit all over my dashboard. My apologies, you got that proper POV. The labeling on the stock is so good because it has like this gradient, right? So it's like less, more. But then the question sometimes on these cars is, if you're unfamiliar with the car, is that more time or more rain? So some cars, if that was more, what it's really saying is more time between the windshield wiper wipes, less time between windshield wiper wipes. But Honda goes a step further to explain that with these two icons. So it's showing you that when we mean less rain. So that's more time between wipes. And then here, we mean more rain. There's more drops. So less time between wipes. Very nice. I love good icons. I love good signage. I love obvious things where you don't have to question things. Oh, and the fact that it has a rear wiper. And the rear wiper is fantastic. It does the job. And, you know, it's got a great little reverse camera, so the reverse camera usually does the job. But it is still nice to be able to move, especially in the winter. If there's a little bit of dusting or whatever, just wipe that off the rear hatch. And my last quibble with this car, honestly, it's the fuel tank. It's 12.4 gallons. When you fill it, it tells you you've got about 310 miles of range. That's fine, but I do find myself filling this a lot. And obviously, the range isn't the most important thing, but I just feel like I spend too much time at gas stations. And obviously, I'm not putting that much fuel and spending that much money to do that, but I don't want to have to go that often. I would love it if this was like a 16 or 17 gallon tank. It's just not. And the reason why that's the case is because it's a Civic. It's got the Civic packaging, and most Civics get like 40 to 50 miles per gallon, whether it's an SI or a standard 1.5 liter turbo or the hybrid system. And for those cars, that 12-gallon tank goes much, much further. In this car, it does not, despite the fact that like 27 miles per gallon is still fine. That's still quite good. It's just annoying because I do find myself sucking down fuel in this tank pretty regularly, and I do have to make a lot of stops. But would I buy this car again 3 years later? Yes, like 100% yes. I don't think there's many cars that deliver as well on its promises as well as this car does. Does that make any sense? I think that makes sense. The other thing is, now that gas is $5.50 a gallon for premium here in Massachusetts, my complaints about thinking, oh, I wish I had like an inline 6 or a V8 or suddenly this 4-cylinder, ooh, baby, juicy. It's fantastic. It's doing everything I need it to do, and it's saving me from spending tons and tons and tons of money on fuel all the time. I really did think that maybe I would sell a car, and when I have the Lexus GX460, and I thought, well, that's the year-rounder, that's the daily driver, and if I don't have this Civic, then maybe I'll use the Porsche and the M5 more. Well, now that fuel is where it's at, if I were to sell a car, it might be the Lexus, and maybe this just becomes the winter car again. I've got a set of wheels and tires with Blizzaks on it, so it can do the job. I don't want it to rust away, but dems the brakes if you're trying to be economical. This car is so good at what it does. And yes, you gotta pay a little bit up front, but the beauty of it is it holds its value. And that's really the final wonderful thing about this car, is that even with some miles on it, it's still worth a bunch of money. And I know that there's competition. I know that you could buy an Elantra N, for example, but I really don't see people going nuts over those cars in the aftermarket or on the secondhand market. And I never have. You know, like, when was the last time you saw a Veloster Turbo? I just don't see these cars out there that much, and I don't see like an enthusiasm behind them after they come out. They're sort of like a flash in the pan. And the reliability of this Honda just seems above and beyond what you'd get from like a Subaru STI. It seems above and beyond what you would get from the Hyundai. And I find it to be kind of an impossible balance. This guy dances a lot when he does traffic. I really like him. He's my favorite. He's not dancing right now. That's a bummer. I think I got him on dash cam earlier. And what's so cool about this car is just how at home it is on a racetrack or an autocross. And how intuitive it is to drive. We just passed a BRZ. I want to love the BRZ. I really do. I have just never really genuinely connected with that car as a driver. And I connect with this car really well. It's just such a phenomenally high-end driving experience for the money. So while this car is not perfect, it doesn't have some exotic sound, it may not have an exotic powertrain, but it is one of the most well-rounded vehicles I have ever experienced. It's wildly practical. Anybody could own this car, whether you're a single person who likes to go to track days and bring an extra set of wheels, or you have a family where you got to put car seats in the back and carry a stroller. You know, this could pretty much replace a small SUV or CUV for most people. It's reasonably efficient. You're getting nearly 30 miles per gallon. That's pretty darn good in a car that can accomplish what this can do on the Nürburgring. And it's also tactile and fun to drive and intuitive. Honda put their whole ass into this car. You can really tell that this car meant a lot to them. And you can really tell that they wanted this to be a lasting experience that was not going to be a flash in the pan, that this was going to be a fun driver's car, even in the future if cars get wildly fast, wildly efficient. This will always be an entertaining car. The same way legacy Type Rs are still fun. The same way that if you put me in an Integra GSR right now, I would have the best time. It doesn't matter that it's slower than other things today. It's a good time and it's a good car. This doesn't sound amazing. It's a kind of a boring exhaust, whatever. But honestly, it means no one's calling the cops on me. I can rip around some little back road and I'm not gonna get called in. I mean, I don't think I'm getting called in anyway, but you might. If you're in the Camaro SS1LE and you start hitting it, I mean, trust me, it's not subtle. Everybody knows you're there. And Just like you can do launch controls in the middle of Harvard Square in a Tesla and no one's the wiser. This car kind of has that ability to slip under the radar on a back road, having a bit of fun. Oh, okay, maybe it's a little stiff sometimes. Oh my God. Anyway, that is the first 25,000 miles of my Civic Type R. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Here, I guess he disappeared. We lost our GR Corolla. He went somewhere else. Anyway, here's to the next 25,000 miles, because I do think I'm going to keep this and just keep driving it. I'm so impressed with what it's capable of and how it fits into my life and how it's so carefree. I used to only own cars that were needy and always begging for some level of maintenance, and oh, now this is broken. Oh, it needs a new evap hose. It needs a new PCV. It needs this. It needs that. There's always something going on, and I just think that being able to own a Civic, I mean, a Honda Civic, like that means reliability. That can do what this can do around a corner and be entertaining and be fun and do legitimate track work and have people come back after a session and look at you and say, what's under the hood of that thing? And you say, literally nothing. It's just a K-Series. It's just a stock thing with some grippy tires. And man, that's one track day. It's magical. And for those of you who are trying to be reasonably frugal, I know that the price of entry is relatively high, but I'm telling you the cost of ownership is pretty low, and it's really easy to just live with this car and enjoy it. So that's where we'll end it. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.